Good morning, boys and girls. We are here at our next maths lesson, and we are going to be looking at patterns. Now, if we think back to the patterns that we've already looked at, we've worked with shapes and we've worked with colors. Today, we are going to develop patterns based on the direction of the stick. Now, before we go to our pattern, let's review the names of different directions. Let's see, for example, if a stick is facing like this, do you know what we call this? We say it is a vertical line. Vertical. However, if the stick were to lie like this, we would call it horizontal. Horizontal. If a line were at an angle, we would call it a diagonal line. Good. We are now going to go to our patterns. Do you remember that before we start our pattern, it's important to remember that there are rules. Every pattern follows a rule or a sequence. In today's pattern, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to identify the rule or sequence of the pattern, and then we are going to discuss the relationship between the different lines. Let's choose a color. Let's start with the color red. And the rule for this pattern is going to be horizontal, horizontal, vertical. Let's go over the rule again. Horizontal, horizontal, vertical. Now, if you have a box of matches at home, or if you have some colored pencils, or if you have some sticks like society sticks, you can use those to work with me whilst we work on our pattern. Let's go. Horizontal, horizontal, vertical. Almost looks like an L lying on its back. Now let's continue the pattern by repeating the rule. Horizontal, horizontal, vertical. Whoops, this one's a bit sneaky. Horizontal, horizontal, vertical. And you can continue. Now let's talk about the relationship between the different lines. Remember, relationship is what this line does with this line, and what this line does with this line. If we talk about the relationship between these two horizontal lines, they are touching each other on the edge. Their edges are touching. Now, if we look at the relationship between the vertical line, we can say it has a horizontal line touching it and on the one side and another horizontal line touching it on the other side. What is the relationship between this vertical line and this vertical line? Well, they have got two horizontal lines in the middle. Now we understand the pattern. we can continue this pattern in any color and with any size stick. It's a pattern that is continuous and never changes. Right, let's make another pattern. Let's pack our red sticks away and let's choose another color to work with. I think we're going to work with purple. Let's choose a new rule for our next pattern. What about vertical, horizontal, diagonal? Vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Now we have our rule, vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Now we're going to continue our pattern by repeating the rule. So right over here, we're going to start again. Say it with me. Vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Now let's look at the relationship between the different lines. What is the relationship between the vertical and the horizontal line? Well, we can see the one's bottom edge is touching the long edge of the vertical line. What is the relationship between the diagonal line and the horizontal line? Well, if you look carefully, you can see the two edges are touching only on the tip. And when you identify the relationship between the different elements of the pattern, you can continue this pattern in perfect repetition. Let's do another pattern. Let's pack our purple sticks away and let's see what we can do. Why don't we use yellow? Let's identify a rule. What about diagonal, 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 horizontal? Let's go. Diagonal, 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 and horizontal. And diagonal, 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 horizontal. This is an interesting pattern. Have you noticed something different? Even though the rule is repeated, the pieces are not necessarily touching. There is a break between each rule or sequence. Now, if we were to continue the pattern, we could do it without touching the initial sequence. And to complete it, we would need another horizontal line. Boys and girls, can you see that patterns appear in a variety of ways? One can use just about anything to create a pattern. In fact, most, if not all, things in life and in the world and in the creation are made using sequences and patterns. Even the simple arrangement of petals around a sunflower contains intricate yet distinctive patterns. And if we were to study and understand how patterns work in our world, we would gain a greater understanding for the creation and the continuation of different forms and elements that are to be very useful one day. Why don't you take your matchsticks and use them to create patterns in a way that identifies an image or a picture. Here we go, boys and girls. Have fun. Enjoy working with patterns. I look forward to our next lesson. Bye.